Okay. For today's story time, we're doing The Old Man and the Sea.
What?
So, The Old Man and the Sea is a story about this old man who lives near the beach. And all the people nearby, all they do is catch fish. That's how everybody earns a living.
Yes.
The old man has a small boat.
Yes.
And everyone is really hungry because they're having a hard time catching fish. So the old man says he is going to go out and he's going to try and catch a fish this time. So he goes out in his boat and he rows out to where all the other guys are fishing and they're not catching anything. So he says, I'm going to go even further out to sea. So he rows even further. And then he was further out and he says, you know what? I'm going to go even further. And he rows so far out that nobody can see him and he can't see the beach anymore and he can't see the other boats or anything. So he's out there all by himself and he has his fishing line, he has his knife, and he has his spear, or we call it a harpoon. That's what he used to stab the fish. Yeah, it's like a spear. He used to stab the fish and pull it into
like
the
you
boat.
stab somebody in the back in like a fighting game.
Yes, and you use a harpoon to stab the fish to pull them into the boat. Because if you try to use the rope, the fishing line, sometimes the fishing line breaks. So when you get the fish close to the boat, you use a harpoon and you stick them with the harpoon and you pull the fish in the boat. So all he had was his knife, his harpoon, and his fishing line. So he's out in the sea and he catches a small fish. And he takes a small fish and he puts the small fish on his big hook. He has a big hook and a big fishing line. And then he throws that out into the water. And then he waits. And nothing happens. And he stays there all day. And it's nighttime. And then it's the morning and still nothing happens. But he's not giving up. And he stays in the boat. And he's looking and the sun is really hot. And then he looks and he sees these seabirds flying around near to his boat. And he's like, oh, I need to go where those seabirds are. Because wherever the seabirds are, that means there's fish nearby. So he pulls up his hook and he rows his boat to where the seabirds are circling. And then he throws his hook with the fish on it in the water. And then he waits and he holds the fishing line in his hand because he wants to feel when the fish grabs it. And then he feels a little tug on his fishing line. And he said, ooh, it bit the fish, but it didn't swallow it. And he's like, okay, try again. Take a bigger bite. And then the fish tugged it again, but he didn't bite it yet. And then the old man held the fishing line really tight. And he said, the next time the fish bites it, I'm going to yank it so that the hook goes in his mouth. And then the next time the fish bites it, the old man pulls the fishing line. Rah! And the hook goes into the fish's mouth. And then the fish dragged the fishing line out of his hand. It was so strong, he thought he could hold on to it.
That was
The swordfish?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Swordfish.
it was the swordfish.
It's the big swordfish.
A
That was
big swordfish. He didn't even know how big it was.
I know how big it is because I saw it jumping in the sky when you were gonna watch it.
Yes. So the old man tries to hold the string, the rope, and he's trying to hold it, but the fish is so strong. He pulls it out of his hands. So the old man, all he could do is just hold on. He couldn't even pull it to the boat. All he could do was hold on. And the fish was pulling his boat to the left, and the fish was pulling his boat to the right, and his boat was moving all over the water. And he was like, I'm gonna get this fish. And he starts pulling, and nothing is happening. And then he's like, I wonder how big this fish is. It's so strong. And then he pulls, and then all of a sudden, out of the water, the fish jumped out of the water.
Dolphins can jump out of the water and go back in.
Yeah. And when the fish jumped out of the water, he saw how big it was. It was bigger than his boat. It was so big that if he caught that fish, it would not fit in his boat. So he held on. He was like, this is the biggest fish I've ever caught. And he held on to it and like, I'm not giving up. because people need the food from the fish, and I need it. And so he's holding on to the fishing line, and the fish is fighting under the water, and it's moving, and he pulls, and he pulls, and he pulls, and he's not getting anywhere because the fish is so strong, and he has to wait for the fish to get tired to pull it in. So he just holds on, and he wraps the rope around his arm, and he pulls tight, and he's getting tired, and the fish is pulling it to the boat to the left and to the right. And then he gets tired, and he lies down, and he just ties off the rope to his boat, and he sits down to get a rest because he's fighting this fish.
And then
for
the sharks
hours.
are going to be coming.
Not yet. So he's fighting the fish for hours and hours, and he's exhausted, and it goes into the nighttime, and then it goes to the next morning, and he's still fighting the fish. So he's fighting the fish for a whole day, and he's fighting and he's holding, but it looks like the fish is getting tired, and he's pulling, and now he starts pulling. He's like, the fish is getting tired, so he pulls, and the fish starts swimming the other way, and then he has a hold on tight. And then the fish starts swimming towards him. So he pulls and he pulls and he pulls and he pulls. And then the fish started swimming around the boat. But it was a little bit too far for him to pull in. So he pulls in a little bit more. And then the fish was very close to his boat. So then he took out his harpoon. And he's waiting for the fish to swim nearby. And he says, just come a little closer. Just a little closer. And then the fish started swimming past his boat. And then it turned to go under his boat. And when the fish turned to go under his boat, he took his harpoon and he stabbed it into the fish. And then the fish started wiggling, but the harpoon was stuck inside of him, and he held onto the harpoon, and the fish wiggled, and it wiggled, and it wiggled, and then it died. But it was a really big fish, so there's a lot of blood in the water. So then the old man used the harpoon to pull the fish close to the boat. He could not lift the fish into the boat because the fish was so big. So he just tied the fish to the boat. He took his rope and he put it around the fish and he put it around the boat. And he looped it over the fish and over the boat. And he tied the fish on the side of the boat. And then he started to make his way back home. But he was so tired from the fight, he had to rest. So he rested for a couple hours. And he was tired. And then he started rowing his boat back, trying to get back home with the fish, and it was really hard to row the boat because the fish was so heavy. So he's rowing the boat, and then he looked in the water and he saw something coming towards his boat.
It was sharks.
It was one shark. He saw the shark fin.
He's afraid of it. You're afraid of it.
And then so he saw the shark fin come out of the water.
I'm a shark.
And then one shark fin came out of the water towards the boat. And he's like, oh no, the shark is coming to try to eat the fish. The shark probably smelled the blood from when he stabbed it with a harpoon. And then another shark came. It was two sharks. And then the sharks came and they started biting on the fish.
There's too many.
At this point, there's only two. So the old man took his harpoon and he stabbed one of the sharks with a harpoon. And he hurt the shark, and the shark fell into the water and it's wiggling and fighting. And it was wiggling because it was hurt. And I think he hurt the shark really bad. And it sunk down under the water.
He should have cut it in half and then throw it back in the water, and instead the other one cut it in half and throw it back in the water.
But the sharks are big. He can't cut it in half. The sharks are big. And then the other shark
It'd
was
be
still
cool
biting.
if two sharks ate it, and then when he found more, he got two more stabs and stabbed them, and then he took them home.
That'd be a good idea if you took the sharks home.
If there was like a big, huge one, and he tied them on the other side, and then when they saw the other shark, he just sailed away, and then they saw how big those stuff was, and then they had lots of.
Yeah.
And then he got look at those.
And then,
Wow.
so he's killed one shark with his harpoon, and then the other shark started biting his fish, and he stabbed the other fish, and he stabbed the other shark with his harpoon, but the shark moves really violently. It moves its head when it got stabbed, and the harpoon broke. So he had no more weapons to fight the sharks. So the old man went and he took his knife, and he sat down and put his knife on a broken harpoon on the stick, and he started tying the knife to the rope to the stick with a rope. So he tied the knife to the rope, and he made it so it would function. like a harpoon. And then more sharks started coming. 3 sharks, 4 sharks, 5 sharks. And they're all biting his fish really fast and hard. So he took his knife that's tied to his stick and he started stabbing the fish with that.
What about if he was a monster? He had lots of hands go pew, 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 pew.
But he wasn't a monster, he was an old man. And his knife got stuck in one of the sharks and it broke off. So now he had no more knives, no more harpoons. So he started taking his paddle that he used to row the boat, and he started hitting the sharks with it because the sharks were eating off all of his fish, and they're eating him so much of it. And he's fighting.
He think that it was a fish?
No, he knew it was sharks, but they're eating his swordfish, and he's hitting all of the sharks, beating them with the paddle, but they don't care. The paddle doesn't hurt them enough, and he's hitting them harder and harder and harder till the paddle broke, and the paddle fell off, and the old man had nothing to fight the sharks with, and the sharks just stayed there and they ate and ate and ate his fish. And
I know something.
Wait, don't shout it.
I know something.
Hold on. And he was so tired from fighting the fish, trying to catch the fish for over 1 day, and then now he's super tired from fighting the sharks, and he had no more weapons to fight the sharks. Yes, Chris, you were saying.
He can use his hand and throw it really far, and then they couldn't get him and he can sail all the way back to land.
Well, he doesn't have his paddle anymore.
Or he can kill them and with his hand.
paddle?
He only had one paddle, and the paddle broke when he was trying to hit the sharks.
And
So he had to sail back.
Or he could kill them with his hand, and then he can eat the small fish and the sharks.
Well, he can't kill the shark with his hand. The sharks are too big,
They might bite him.
and they might bite his hand. Yes.
Or he can grab their tail and then go and bite their tail off.
Or they can do these. Or
he can bite their mouth off and bite their eyes off and bite everywhere and eat them.
Or if you can take their tail and swing them and throw them.
Maybe. But they're too big. He can't lift them up. He can't bite them. Anyway, let me finish the story. So the old man was tired, and then the sharks ate up all the fish, the swordfish, except for the head of the swordfish and the tail of the swordfish. So all you had was the head and the tail and bones in between. And the old man was so tired he couldn't even come out of the boat. He just fell down in the boat and fell asleep. And he tried his very best to get the boat back to the beach. And he got the boat back, but he was so tired. And then he got to the beach and he fell out of the boat and crawled all the way into his hut and went to his bed and fell asleep. And the next morning, people saw his boat because they didn't know where he was. They thought he was lost in the ocean, and they found his boat and they saw the
big head,
the big head and the bones of the giant swordfish, and they saw what he tried to do, and they said, "Oh my goodness, he did that for us. He tried to get that fish for us to eat, but he wasn't successful." And they went to the old man and said, "Old man, are you okay?" And the old man was so tired and he felt so sad from losing the fish. And the people said, it's okay, old man. We were looking for you and we couldn't find you. But while we were looking for you, we found a new fishing spot. And we found lots and lots of fish because of you. Because you went out to catch fish for us. We went to look for you and we found lots of fish. So we are not starving anymore. We have food now. So because of the old man, everyone found a new fishing spot, and now they were able to get food.
What about if there's like a big fish bigger than the whole world and bigger than the sun, and he caught it, and the sharks got tired of eating, and the sharks
couldn't eat it because it's too big?
Yes, and
They laugh a
in
lot.
the face. And then
Anyway, that is the end of The Old Man and the Sea.
But why do sharks have things on their head?
On their back?
Yeah.
I don't know. The fins, it helps them to steer to turn and change direction in the water. Anyway, that's it for the Old Man and the Sea. Say bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Don't overdo it.